Hello, and welcome to the MATLAB library compiler tutorial lesson thing. Right, so we're going to compile a MATLAB library into something we can use with .NET, just for a simple k-means function so we can see kind of what we can actually use MATLAB for. Right, so I have MATLAB open, and I have a directory, and we just need to make a new file and a new function. And I'm going to call my function k-means, so it's going to be a simple k-means function. And open that up. And this is the template that MATLAB gives you. We don't need any of this. Instead, I'm going to paste the code that I wrote earlier. So the main kind of important parts of this, let me remove these comments, they're unnecessary right now. The important parts of this would be the data path and the clusters path, because these both get passed into our function by C#, and then MATLAB can then read the data from those paths, so you'll have the data in your clusters, which will then get passed through the k-means function, and then it'll generate an output, which we assign back to our output variable here, which is defined in the function signature. And that's what will come back to C#, so we're expecting this kind of data structure to come out of our function. But we'll see that shortly. Anyway, there's our function. You can feel free to copy that if you want, or write your own. It doesn't really matter as long as you have kind of an output and input. Not always required though. Okay, so if we go to apps, we have this little app bar, and we have library compiler. You probably don't have this because I favorited it. So instead of that, you can click this down arrow, and then either search for it here, or just scroll to the bottom, and there's library compiler, as I got a star. So click, clicky click, and we get this compiler window open up. And here is the type of the library we want to compile. So scroll down, you'll find .NET Assembly. I mean, you can use this for other things as well. You got your Java package, but we're going to go with a .NET example and add a function. And the function I'm going for is my k-means, which I just wrote or pasted, and open that up. And here we go. We got library information, so it's filling these fields for me. And at the bottom, just down below there, is this kind of class and a function call. So this is what our compiler, our library will know about. So we'll be able to access this exact method through our class, which we create in our .NET or C#. I'll leave it as class 1 for now, just so you can see how that's used. And this is the function bar. We don't need to change anything. These are the things that get generated. So really, we don't really need to bother with anything else, unless you really want to change the class name or the methods. Just hit package, and then choose a directory. I'll go ahead and just save it here, which is the directory which you're currently in. It'll take a moment to just generate the binaries. So while that's loading, let's go over to Visual Studio, and we can create a new project. So you can either select Net Framework Console App, or just create a new project. Visual C#, and then search for this console app.net framework. Change this directory. We don't want that. We want to go down to desktop, MATLAB example, Visual Studio. So I'm going to save mine here. Doesn't matter where you save it. I'm just going to put it here just so I know where everything is. No, there we go. Let's ignore that for now. Minimize that if that happens. Right, let's make just a project, MATLAB example. And okay, hit OK. That will create the Visual Studio project. Take a second, and we'll have our starter class, our program class here. Take a second to load. Right, let's go back to that folder that just opened. So this folder just opened. So in MATLAB, you can see, if you go to MATLAB now, that's finished compiling. We have this new folder here. You can right click, you can go show in Explorer, which will open this. You can then go into your new generated output, a compiled library, and in for testing, you'll see these two DLLs. So we've got k-means native and we got k-means.dll. We want the native one because then we can kind of cast the output and things, which is what we want. So let's copy this, And close that now. I'm going to go over to here. This is just another folder I've created. I've created a folder called library. So here's my Visual Studio project. Here's my MATLAB project, and here's just a library folder I just created just to organize things. So paste your new k-means native.dll or whatever your .native is, your native.dll is, and we need one more DLL. So this one is found in a very special place. In program files, MATLAB, all this junk here, right here, this long, usually this long kind of, directory name. We'll find this MW array. This will probably be given to you, but there we go. It's there. They're the two things we need to get this working. Let's close these. And we don't need MATLAB now. That's good. But boom, close it. Get rid of that. And here we go. We're in a nicer environment now, I think. Okay, so we want to add a reference to this. We want to add a reference to our class library. So if we go on to the right to Solution Explorer, you have this reference drop down. If you don't have this Solution Explorer, you can go to View and Solution Explorer here. Just click on that and it'll bring it up. So open your references and then add a new reference. Let me just remove these from earlier. Browse. And I'm in the library folder just where I've put my DLLs, and I'm going to select both of those and add them. And then OK. There we go. So we've got both our DLLs here now. Dependencies. Right, so in C# we can now actually access our method in the class. So if I create a new class, we call it class 1. There you go. It knows it's in k-means native. So that's the class that was defined during the compilation. So click on there. That'll automatically import it. If it doesn't import, just you can just write you're using at the top. So mine's k-means native. It's already added it. Next, we'll call class 1 and just create a new object of class 1. Now, through this class object, we can access our methods. So class 1 dot. So we have our k-means function here, which is defined in the compilation. So click on there, and it'll give you a few options here. It'll give you a few extra things you can pass. So data path and data path, clusters path. There's many more. I don't know how to access these. Let's just go down this list. I don't know. There's more. There you go. This is the one we want. We want the data path, clusters path. So we need to pass it 2 strings. One string is going to be the path to our data, and the other string is going to be a path to our clusters file. So let's just minimize Visual Studio. I'm going to open MATLAB example, and I should have data. So these are the data function files I created earlier. We have a clusters file, which is just a number, so the number of clusters we want. And we have a data file, which is just a collection of vectors. So there's 200 here. Each line is an X and a Y, an X and a Y, an X and a Y, all the way down to the bottom. So we need these 2 files. MATLAB needs to know about these 2 files. So let's find the path to these 2 files. So we'll open them up in your File Explorer. Just click here. And there's a path. Just copy that and paste it. Let's open this further. Let's paste it again. It might say escape paste text. You can do that. Don't really need to at the moment. Instead, you can change all these backslashes to forward slashes. That'll fix this issue here. Or you can put an @ symbol just before the string, so it knows then that no escape character is present. So we have two of our directories here. We need to actually specify the file name. So for backslash again data.txt is for our data text, and then backslash clusters.txt, I think it was called. Yeah, so clusters and data, they're the file names. Now that's basically, we're calling the k-means function, and it's doing its thing, and it will return an output because we defined it to return an object. So you can see it says object there. The thing is, C# doesn't know the type of object, so we have to explicitly say what we're expecting. In this case, I know we're expecting a matrix of clusters, which is actually a double array. So if you define a double, let's go for this primitive double. It's an array of doubles. output equals, and we want to cast it. So now we know that we're trying to get an array of doubles out. We're just casting this object into something because that's what we were expecting. And at the end, let's do a console.readLine so it doesn't close. And let's set a breakpoint on this output. If we go press start now, you'll see a problem. There will be an error. Type initializer for k-means native through an exception. The issue with this, the way around this is to just see up here where it says any CPU. If you have this, you might not, but if you have any CPU here, just click the drop down menu, click Configuration Manager, click your platform here. You need to change the platform to new, and then select 64-bit instead of 32-bit because 64-bit it requires 64-bit. So okay, and close. And if we run it again, it should actually run this time. It'll take a moment. You can see in your output at the bottom, it'll actually put all these outputs. And there we go. So it's calling our k-means function if we skip the line. Yeah, it's actually ran it because we're on the next line. It hasn't errored or anything. So the output is now defined. You can see it's got a double. So 200 rows and 2 columns in each row. If you open this out, you can kind of see all the data we have, all the clusters. So index, this is the index of the initial vector, the initial point, and then the cluster that it belongs to is the one. So it's not very readable at this point, but you can use this data. You can, you can format it how you want. We can actually iterate over it. But that's basically how you set up MATLAB and compile a library and use it with C#. So I hopefully that was useful, and thank you for watching and enjoy.